On today's podcast, we're going to begin a 4-part series on biblical restoration. This episode is for someone who is perhaps trying to minister to someone who has fallen for the purpose of restoring them. Now, it is essential to note that anyone who would find themselves in a fallen state, they were trending downward before they ever fell. That is important to note. And on this episode, we're going to be looking at the foundation for biblical restoration. If we're going to learn restoration, we should learn it by observing how the Lord reclaims us and how the Lord restores us and others. In Proverbs 3:11 through 12, Solomon says, "My son, despise not the chastening of the Lord, neither be weary of his correction. For whom the Lord loveth, he correcteth, even as a father the son in whom he delighteth." King Solomon was aware of his sin nature, and he also knew that this same sinful nature could be found within his son. King Solomon knew also what the prophet Isaiah had to say about the propensity for humanity to wander. Isaiah 53:6 says, "All we like sheep have gone astray. We have turned every one to his own way, and the Lord hath laid on him the iniquity of us all." King Solomon knew that we all go astray. He himself had strayed at times into vanity, many wives, concubines, and mistresses. The wisest man in Scripture, apart from Christ, was not perfect in wisdom. King Solomon was not perfect in avoiding situations to learn the easy way, but went head first rather than Christ first. So the wisdom and reasoning behind Proverbs 3:11 through 12 is in good order. We see again, "My son, despise not the chastening of the Lord, neither be weary of his correction. For whom the Lord loveth, he correcteth, even as a father the son in whom he delighteth." Despise would be defined as to contemn, to scorn, to disdain, to have the lowest opinion of. Proverbs 1:7, we see, "Fools despise wisdom and instruction." So bear in mind that when we're dealing with reclamation, you are dealing with someone who belongs to the Lord. So our first emphasis will come in at "despise not the chastening of the Lord." The fallen need to learn first and foremost that they should not despise the chastening of the Lord. If the fallen never learn to accept chastening, they will never be reclaimed. What is chastening? What is the purpose of chastening? Chastening is defined as correction, punishment for the purpose of reclaiming. Hebrews 12:11, "No chastening for the present seemeth to be joyous, but grievous." So King Solomon is essentially telling his son here that it is not a matter of if you step out of bounds, but it is a matter of when. King Solomon wanted to warn his son as to what would happen when he steps outside of God's boundaries. The idea is that God will chasten with the intent to reclaim. Now, chastening is a vital component of the restoration process. With this in mind, we are not to interfere with the chastening hand of God in the life of a fallen believer. If we are not careful, we can drive the fallen further away from God. We could also prolong their fallen state by interfering with the chastening hand of God. Now, if God sends you to restore someone, there are some things to keep in mind. As you arrive on the scene, so to speak, of this fallen believer, picture in your mind's eye a person that has fallen out of a boat and into rough waters. Is it the time to play 20 questions? Is it the time to figure out how they ended up there? Is it time to ask, where is your safety preserver? No, in this case, you would throw out a lifeline for reclamation. The time to ask questions would be upon bringing them, the fallen, back to safety. Now, you could ask what happened at that point. You could then ask, how can we avoid this from happening again as we move forward? See, reclamation is at times a hard thing to accomplish. Why is that? Because in order to save a life, it takes two. You need one that is willing to reach out, and you need another that is willing to clasp a hold of that outreached hand. Now, when you're on the scene of the fallen, I encourage you to remember something vital. Remind the fallen that you're just doing for them what God has done for you. God has been there for you and I over and over and over again. And I am thankful for those who fall and allow you to reclaim them for the Lord's cause. We must know that reclamation stories do not all end badly. So as we return to the idea of chastening, the chastening of the Lord is because he loves the fallen. I would also note that we show our love for the fallen by not interfering with the chastening hand of God. Hebrews 12:6-11, for whom the Lord loveth, he chasteneth, and scourgeth every son whom he receiveth. If ye endure chastening, God dealeth with you as with sons. For what son is he whom the Father chasteneth not? But if ye be without chastisement, whereunto all are partakers, then are ye bastards and not sons. Furthermore, we have not had fathers of our flesh which correcteth us, and we gave them reverence. Shall we not much rather be in subjection unto the Father of spirits and live? For they verily for a few days chastened us after their own pleasure, but he for our profit, that we might be partakers of his holiness. Now no chastening for the present seemeth to be joyous, but grievous. Nevertheless, afterward it yieldeth the peaceable fruit of righteousness unto them which are exercised thereby. The idea is that the Lord loves you if you are chastened by him. And the idea is that you belong to the Lord. You are a son. You are a joint heir if he chastens you. And this is also how you know that you are his. If you can get out of bounds with God, if you can transgress his law, if you can violate his word at will, and you have no conviction, then you are spiritually dead. So chastening is for a reason, and there is a purpose that is involved in chastening. King Solomon is essentially telling his son not to despise chastening because it is out of a love for him, and it is also for his ultimate benefit. You know, one of the reactions that many will have to chastening is scorn. Scorn is defined as to hold in extreme contempt, to despise, to contemn, to disdain. Proverbs 3:34, surely he scorneth the scorner, but he giveth grace to the lowly. Proverbs 3 and verse 34 tells us that God holds the scorner in great contempt, but he giveth grace to the lowly. You know, the humble response to chastening is, you're right, Lord, and I'm wrong. So returning once again to our passage for this episode, we'll draw from another phrase in Proverbs 3:11-12. My son, despise not the chastening of the Lord, neither be weary of his correction, for whom the Lord loveth, he correcteth, even as a father the son in whom he delighteth. Emphasis on neither be weary of his correction. Weary is defined as having the patience exhausted or mind yielding to discouragement. Now remind us of Hebrews 12:11 for a moment. Now no chastening for the present seemeth to be joyous, but grievous. Nevertheless, afterward it yieldeth the peaceable fruit of righteousness unto them which are exercised thereby. I don't care what the chastisement is for. It'll not be joyous in the moment that it is received, but it will be grievous. Now, this is something that I had to learn at times early on, even in the ministry. I expected every time I had to deal with something or confront something in someone's life, I almost expected them to always be excited about it at first, to always be willing to come around to it at first. But I really realized after a while that was an impossible standard for anybody. And even the Bible says, now no chastening for the present seemeth to be joyous. As long as people come around to truth, as long as they come around to the confrontational truths at times that is being presented to them, as long as they come around to understanding the long-term good of the chastening and what it is for, hey, I am happy, because we all don't handle confrontation at times too well. We all don't handle chastisement and chastening oftentimes well at the first, but we should be able to come around to it. It shouldn't be grievous to us, and the word grievous means heavy, oppressive, burdensome. Now may I also submit to you, if chastisement was not grievous, then of what benefit would it be? We as people usually need to feel the heat and the weight of our choices. So to turn down the heat and lighten the load of those under God's chastisement is not beneficial to them. Chastisement helps the fallen come to terms with the fact that sinful living is not to their benefit. Vance Havner said this: if they had a social gospel in the days of the prodigal son, somebody would have given him a bed and a sandwich, and he never would have gone home. Place your attention on another word with great meaning in this passage, and it is the word nevertheless. When the fallen walk in victory, there is an overwhelming peace that is accompanied with joy. So the idea here is that chastening is not joyous. However, chastening brings about joy in the fact that it is used by God to reclaim the fallen. Some of the most miserable Christians that I know despise chastening, and because of that, they have no joy. Why? Because you must surrender sin to have joy. One thing about reclamation is that you cannot always reclaim someone. One major reason is that you cannot make the decision to surrender for someone. What Paul say to Timothy in 2 Timothy 4, verses 9 through 11, do thy diligence to come shortly unto me, for Demas hath forsaken me, having loved this present world, and is departed unto Thessalonica, Crescens to Galatia, Titus unto Dalmatia. Only Luke is with me. Take Mark and bring him with thee, for he is profitable to me for the ministry. Paul did not say, I'm going to go and get Demas. He did not say, Timothy, go and get Demas. Paul did not say, Mark and Luke, go and get Demas. Paul essentially said the following to Timothy: I can't force Demas, so bring me Mark. Some folks don't heed chastening. It's important to note that after so long, and as the Spirit leads, you have to let them go and leave them alone. You are not closing the door to them, but you are giving them the space needed to allow the chastening hand of God to perform its work. Now, I know this goes against the heart of man, and I know it goes against the heart of a mother or a father who doesn't want to see their children struggle and suffer as a result of the consequences of sin. But at times we have to let God run His course in their life. For one last time, I'd like to draw your attention to Proverbs 3:11 through 12. My son, despise not the chastening of the Lord, neither be weary of His correction. For whom the Lord loveth He correcteth, even as a father the son in whom He delighteth. Emphasis on for whom the Lord loveth He correcteth. Correct means to make right, to rectify, to bring to the standard of truth, justice, or propriety, as to correct manners or principles. Hence, to the fallen in need of reclamation, we need to remind them of something. The chastening they feel, it is for their good, and it is out of God's love for them that He chastens them. Hope this episode today has been a help to you, and we will continue next week with part 2 on biblical restoration.